Hello, everybody. It's been a long time since we made a video, but this is Robert Foley.
Jack Foley.
Of the Pink Tank. And we're answering a very important question today that many people have been asking for years, ever since the rise. Oh, what's this? Ever since the rise of Trumpism. Oh,
That is not the right paper.
That is not the right paper. So, is Donald Trump a fascist?
Good question.
We're going to answer that question today fairly and squarely, starting off with a simple definition of the word fascism. This is from Wikipedia. Fascism is a form of far-right, authoritarian ultranationalism characterized by dictatorial power, forcible suppression of opposition, and strong regimentation of society and of the economy, which came to prominence in early 20th century Europe. It also characterized by opposition to liberalism, democracy, Marxism, and anarchism.
Interesting.
So we're going to make the case that all of these fit to Trump, which means he's a fascist. Now, let's just say something really quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Donald Trump will not outright say, I am a fascist.
Never. I mean, who would want to be associated with fascism?
This should be louder. This should be louder. Sorry.
Yeah, hopefully that's been working.
Donald Trump will never outright say he's a fascist because it has such a negative connotation, even compared to communism.
Mm-hmm.
There are more. Let me say this: there are more communists, much more, who will admit they're communists than fascists who will admit they're fascists, because it has such a negative connotation. And here's why: it's ultranationalism, which is essentially xenophobia or fear of other people.
Mm-hmm.
So how about you talk about what ultranationalism means?
Let's talk about that, because I do have a definition here. Ultranationalism is extreme nationalism that promotes the interests of one state or one people above all others. So, talking about Donald Trump's relationship to ultranationalism, that's something that's been clear. Oh, thank you very much, my host. That's something that's been very clear in his politics. Oh yeah, go ahead. I'll keep him entertained. Yeah. That's something that's been very clear in his politics ever since the beginning. When Donald Trump started off, it was with the slogan, "Make America Great Again," implying that our great nation has fallen from a period of prominence in the past. So, what does Donald Trump think about America? Simply put, he thinks it's the greatest nation on earth. He thinks that our interests matter more than other countries and that we should be promoting our interests, even if it's to the detriment of citizens of other countries, such as immigrants. Now, we all know about Donald Trump's relationship to Mexico, and also about his Muslim ban that it was one of the first things he implemented when he came to office, wasn't it? That ban on the Muslim countries.
I do believe you have a paper on that.
Oh, don't I?
This is from the ACLU.
Yes, let's hear this. Friday, January 27th, 2017. President Donald Trump signed an executive order that banned foreign nationals from 7 predominantly Muslim countries from visiting the country for 90 days, suspended entry to the country of all Syrian refugees indefinitely, and prohibited any other refugees from coming into the country for 120 days. Now, of course, this was because of the reason that there are terrorists, and these countries would be sending us terrorists. And this obviously ties back into one people, because when we say one people, what do we mean about that? We mean that one people that are united under one banner, under one, let's say, label. Race, religion, things of that nature, country. And here we're talking predominantly about white Christian Americans. So someone who doesn't fit into that mold, Donald Trump is obviously going to find causes to malign. And now that also takes us to Mexico.
I was just going to say that. He did the same thing with Mexico. Mm-hmm. So when these shithole countries, when these Muslim countries are sending us their people, they're not sending, no, he didn't say this specifically, but this is what he is implying. They're not sending their best, they're sending their terrorists. Mm-hmm. So the Muslim people, what he's implying is that the Muslim people are maligning and, plotting against the Christian American people by sending terrible people here. That's what he's implying.
And speaking of sending terrible people here, why don't we read you some of Donald Trump's remarks towards Mexican
His own words.
immigrants?
I don't know exactly. This is just straight from his transcript.
Straight from the horse's mouth, if you will. We don't have a straight source, but anyone could find a news clip of him saying this. Thank you. It's true, and these are the best and the finest. When Mexico sends its people, they're not sending their best. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. They're sending people that have lots of problems, and they're bringing those problems with us. They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. And some, I assume, are good people. What do you have to say about that?
Okay, I have a lot to say about that, actually. Here's what I wrote down. When Mexico sends its people, one state over all others, this is the American state against the Mexican state. So they're saying Mexico's sending its bad people, and it's a competition between us and Mexico's trying to deliberately harm us by sending them terrible people. And now this is a dog whistle right here. They're not sending you. They're not sending you. That is to us Americans. They're not sending good people like us Americans. As we all know, people of all races, people of all countries, people of all nationalities have very good people and very bad people. Most people, I think, are good. But he's implying that we're better by saying they're not sending you. So
he's talking to the people in the room. He's telling them that people of your fine caliber aren't the ones that they have down in Mexico that they're sending to us.
Yes.
You're not getting fellow patriots, fellow good people like yourself.
These are just stereotypes. They're bringing drugs. Mexicans do drugs. Oh, they're bringing crime. Oh, they're criminals. They're criminals. They're animals.
All in the mafia.
He's literally called them animals.
He has.
They're rapists. Again, they're criminals. And some, I assume, are good people. This is like something that racists and Nazis, and we're distinguishing Nazism from fascism and fascism. But anyway, and some, I assume, are good people. He's saying the good ones. Stereotype of the good one who's on board with the white race. Yeah. That's his stereotype of like, so yeah, and like, but most of them are deplorables, most of them are that. Mm-hmm. So that's what I have to say about it. I think it's deliberately xenophobic, deliberately racist.
And you know what stands out to me about these sentiments?
What?
They're bringing drugs. They're bringing crime. They're rapists. They're a threat to our country. That's what stands out to me.
And fascists will say this. They're a threat to our country or they're a threat to our race.
So we have to protect ourselves from them.
A common talking point from these like fascists or white nationalists is that, oh, by 2045, white people will be a minority. Have you heard of this before?
I have heard this many times before.
And from what I know, I'm not super educated on this, but that is actually true if trends continue. But where are their priorities where they're so concerned that we're going to be outnumbered? Chances are, if you're concerned about that, you might be racist. If you're concerned about your race over all others.
And let me ask, is it a bad thing to be a minority in some countries?
It's not.
Are you saying that, oh, maybe minorities are treated poorly and you don't want to be a minority?
That's not necessarily the rule when we talk about apartheid.
Apartheid.
There's the white people were the minority.
Well, yeah, but they still had the power.
But they still had the power.
Yeah.
So
it's not about who has more of their race. It's about who has the power.
Yes. And by the way, if that does happen, if my race, I care so much about my race. I don't.
Hey, why does
if we're a minority, I couldn't really care less.
What's going to change? Are suddenly new laws going to be passed oppressing white people?
Probably not. I would wager not. And we're going to get into oppression of black people later, and his opposition to their protests. Excuse me. So that was
Well, let me say one more thing before we wrap up ultranationalism, and that is Donald Trump's remarks towards Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez.
The
Squad. We love you, AOC.
This we do. This is, I believe, from
CNN?
No, this is from NBC.
This is from NBC.
All the links will be in the description, folks.
So, President Donald Trump's re-election campaign attacked Democratic Representative Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez of New York in a campaign email Tuesday for her calls to abolish the Electoral College, telling supporters that this is our country, not theirs.
That's not a dog whistle. That is a bullhorn.
Yep.
Not theirs, not the brown woman's.
Of course.
This is the white man's country, is what he's implying there. And let's just mention this because this is also a tenet of fascism. Why does he oppose abolishing the Electoral College?
Mm-hmm.
Because it gives more power to the people. Right now, if you go out to vote and the majority of the Americans vote for you, but the Electoral College
Votes for
is
the other
skewed
guy?
in a way, that's happened several times. It happened with Donald Trump and Hillary Clinton in 2016.
Yep.
Now, he also had a narrative that, there were 3 million illegal immigrants that were voting.
Well,
That's crap. That is not true at all. Illegal immigrants are not voting. Often illegal immigrants will, like, if they're driving or something, they'll be like driving slowly or at the speed limit because they're afraid of being deported. Why would someone who's afraid of being deported go out and vote?
do you know how hard it is to vote without legal identification? I brought my passport instead of my driver's license, and I had to fill out an entirely separate form. Like, people, where are these illegal immigrants getting such nice fake documents to go vote with?
I don't know. Maybe what's the guy from The Simpsons?
Oh God.
Fat Tony.
Yeah,
Where
Fat
they gave
Tony.
Apu a fake.
He's probably hooking them up. Well,
Yeah.
Speaking of the illegal immigrants, why don't we talk into your next point?
Yes, but after I wrap this up, I'm sorry.
Yeah, go ahead.
So the Electoral College, as I was saying, would make it so one person, one vote, basically. And fascists hate that. And he actually used to be, do you remember, he used to be against the Electoral College. Then he won. All he cares about is pushing his agenda.
When he thought maybe the Electoral College would vote against him, he was like, well, it's a sham.
Yeah. And this time they did. This time he lost. What were you going to say? Sorry.
Oh, I was introducing our
All right, next.
anti-liberal democracy.
We're going to talk about and we're going to talk about with AOC. He often smears her as,
Bobby, you just put it over there.
sorry. He often smears her as, and many people who are Trumpers or MAGAists, Trumpists, smear her as being a communist or a Marxist. Now, Marx has no doubt about it, influenced many left-wing thinkers, even if they're not Marxists. We're not Marxists, I don't think.
No.
I'm a very socialist, left-wing person, but I have many influences from Marx, such as the, the progressive tax rates, the seizing certain means of production, things like that. But anyway, she's a democratic socialist, and she calls herself that. Fascists hate Marxists, and here's the main reason.
Yeah, what is the reason?
What is the cornerstone of it? It's the state. The state has all the power. That's fascism. The state has all the power. In Marxism, it's stateless, classless, and moneyless. Moneyless and classless and stateless are the ones they don't care about the most because they want oppression of people in different classes and hierarchy. Marxism wants to eliminate, and that's probably the best part of Marxism, in my opinion. It wants to eliminate the class differences and the hierarchy, so everyone's on an
equal footing.
Equal footing or equal playing field.
Yep.
Fascists hate this.
Because we need to oppress those of different classes, different races, etc.
Same thing with anarchists. Anarchists, Marxists, very similar, but same thing. Anarchists are
abolition of the state.
Abolition of the state. And fascists hate this because they need the state.
They need a strong state to
oppress.
To hold their power.
Yeah. Anti-democracy.
Here we are.
Fascists believe that liberal democracy is obsolete. That's one of the things. So they believe that liberal democracy is obsolete. Trump has repeatedly attacked democracy. He said that millions of illegal immigrants are voting. They're not. That's not true. He's said that the mail-in ballots are fraudulent. That's not true. He's just trying to undermine democracy.
He did the same thing twice, 2 elections in a row. He's trying to take away the people's voice.
And he's suggested that, maybe there'll be a continuation of my power. Maybe there'll be... It's not going to happen. He's not following through with it. He doesn't... It's over.
It's over.
Now, here's the most blatant anti-democratic thing he has said. This is from... This is from... The Guardian.
2 years ago.
2 years old. Donald Trump has celebrated Xi Jinping, that is the leader of China, Xi Jinping's bid to shepherd China back to an era of a one-man dictatorship, suggesting that the United States might one day give that a shot. This could not be more blatantly against American democracy.
Not in the slightest. He's literally suggesting that he should be
the dictator,
the dictatorial ruler of the United States. And don't have sources for this, but I don't believe that that's the first time he's made such comments about
No, I mean-
extending his own power. Or
Yeah. And there's crazy Trumpers who I saw this one video. This is anecdotal, obviously, but of like, we're on a Trump train, and it has like Trump 2020, 24, 28, 20,
my God.
32, 36, 40, 48, 40, just
As Borat famously said, 10 more years,
Yeah.
100 more years.
Yeah. China's authoritarian leader took power in 2012 and has been expected to rule until 2023. So 2012, that's 8 years ago. 2023, that's
2 years
2
from
years
now.
later. However, last week it emerged, and this is last week, meaning years ago.
2 years ago, last week.
It emerged that Xi would, and I'm sorry if I'm mispronouncing it, I'm not good with names, would attempt to use an annual meeting of China's parliament, which kicks off on Monday morning, to abolish presidential term limits by changing the Chinese constitution. Now, we didn't used to have presidential term limits.
We didn't.
FDR was so popular and so good, he won 4 times, and then they had to come up with it. And rightfully so, because we need changing of power. This is against changing power and keeping one power.
This is
forever.
look at Russia. Look at President Putin.
Putin, who has
been in power for years and years and
Yeah.
years now. The country stagnates when you don't allow new rulers to step in to introduce new policies and a fresh face.
And speaking of being stagnant,
Yeah.
they hate change.
Mhm,
They hate
exactly.
positive change. And let me move on to another thing.
Liberalism, progressivism.
Well, I think we've made it clear that he is against communism. And let's be clear. Most people are against communism. That doesn't automatically make you a fascist.
Indeed.
But if you check all these boxes, which so far he's checked all of these boxes, then you are most likely a fascist.
It's not one or two of these that he has that we're suddenly saying that he's the whole thing.
And a historical example of fascists, Mussolini, Hitler.
Mhm.
Those are the two most
Famous, I would say, fascists.
infamous, but yeah, infamous. So that's blatantly anti-democratic. Now he doesn't support. But China's a communist country. It's a communist country, right? Well, not really, because like we said, communism is anti-state.
Mhm.
It's a very dictator-like state. It's a one-party state, and you could argue whether they really are communist on economics as well, because of certain capital. Like people have money. In Marx, there's no money. You just get what you want, or what you want. You get what you need. So communism has never fully, and I know I sound like a crazy communist apologist here, but never been implemented.
Not
Truly.
as it's supposed to be.
It's always been authoritarian, market socialism, I guess you could say. So let's move on
Moving on.
to blatant. Oh, we should have mentioned this earlier. But we
Oh
didn't.
no, this is perfect.
This is perfect for
Nationalism?
nationalism, ultranationalism. CNN.com, fake news. If I were king, I would not allow, this is Antonin Scalia, famous conservative judge. If I were king, I would not allow the people to go around burning the American flag. However, we have a First Amendment, which says that the right of free speech shall not be abridged, and it is addressed in particular to speech critical of the government, Scalia said. Even Mitch McConnell says the flag stands for freedom, even to desecrate.
Mm-hmm.
Let me find my other paper.
Take your time.
Donald Trump, is he pro-free speech? No, he's not. This is, and granted, I don't know when this is from, but this is from, this is literally from like last year, 2020. President Donald Trump said Monday that he'd support laws criminalizing flag burning, saying that in a call with governors that it's time for the Supreme Court to take up the issue again as nationwide protests have intensified over the death of George Floyd. Let's get into the BLM movement and also the Insurrection Act. This is from a different article. They look like InfoWars with all our papers.
I
here.
know. Let's put aside the ones we've already used.
Yeah, this one we've already used. This one we just used. This one we used.
There we go. We've got both of them, those.
Okay, so
Nope, wait. These are the Chinese one.
China. Insurrection.
There we go.
Insurrection Act. He used the Insurrection Act to put troops on the street. Now, authoritarians and fascists support police states, where everyone is under strict control of the police. BLM is a liberal movement that is supporting the liberation of Black people because they've been oppressed by police. There's studies on this. People will say, oh, well, more white people are killed by police. True, but per capita, more Black people are killed proportionately because, of course, more white people are going to be killed by police.
There are
because
more
there's
white
more white
people in America.
That's just the law of statistics. Now, there are protests against the state being the police.
The police state specifically.
Like we said, fascists do not support opposition to the state. Like, I'm sorry, I'm going back here.
Oh yeah, just take all the papers. Take them.
Here it is.
There's our definition. Yep, let's keep that one up.
Okay. Forcible suppression of opposition. That's exactly what it is. He has police to go there because they're opposing the state. Fascists hate any opposition of the state. Now, I believe just some other things. He's just been very authoritarian, like with that anti-free speech, anti-First Amendment, anti-flag burning laws.
Anti-flag burning specifically.
Let me talk about flag burning personally. I find it disrespectful. I find it disrespectful for those who serve. Call me a crazy, conservative or whatever.
I will.
But let me tell you something. That does not. If I agree 100% with what Antonin Scalia said. Now, Antonin Scalia, anti-LGBT, crazy conservative guy. But
that quote
that quote, I will give him credit because we don't live in a monarchy. We don't live in a dictatorship. You have freedom of speech, and it's your property. We believe in private property to an extent. So what happened to it's your property, you can do what you want? I thought conservatives were supposed to be for that because, all the communists want to take away your private property or whatever.
Make it belong to the state so they can punish you for things like destroying your property, like flags.
Yeah. So
it's contradictory.
It is. And it's just, but anyways, let's see all the boxes. Oh, wait, it's right here. Let's see if we can check all the boxes. Far right. We didn't get into that, but he is far right. Far right does not necessarily mean fascist.
No.
Because there is libertarians, hardcore anarcho-capitalists who are just far right on the economic scale. He's far right on both the economic scale and the civic scale.
Now, do we have a video where we talk about Donald Trump's leanings on that scale? Because we've definitely looked at that.
We have the political compass video. Feel free to watch that. It's very good.
We'll link it in the description.
And we're, of course, hardcore commies. We're way in the bottom left.
We're very liberal left.
Liberal left.
But
now he's off right.
Authoritarian.
Like most politicians, actually.
A lot of politicians today are to the right.
But he is far right on the economic scale. But then again, so is Jo Jorgensen. So she's not a fascist, but ultra-nationalist and authoritarian. He is authoritarian. Like Jo Jorgensen is not authoritarian. So that's why she's not a fascist. Ultra-nationalism. He's promoting
white Christian Americans.
Let me tell you what else he did.
Let's hear it.
When he talks about condemning white supremacy, because people always say, he doesn't condemn white supremacy. To an extent, I agree with that because he doesn't specifically condemn it. But when he does, when he says, I totally condemn white supremacy and the whole tap dance game, what did he say at the debate with Joe Biden, the first debate?
What did he say?
So he said, he's like, do you condemn the white supremacy? He's like, sure. But somebody has to talk about Antifa and the left.
Now, remind me what Antifa, that radical left group, what does that stand for?
Anti-fascist. So he's against anti-fascism. Anti-fascist. Meaning, what do you call that?
I went to math class. I believe those two cancel out and makes him a fascist.
So, and then, of course, the Proud Boys stand back and stand by. So, that is giving a wink to the Gavin McInnes group of totally crazy far-right people. So dictatorial power, we talked about that. We talked about how he supported
Xi Jinping.
He would like to
have dictatorial power.
Like Xi Jinping. And there's a lot of issues with China and that. He's basically a dictator now, and how you address that nationally or globally, it's hard because how do you deal with Kim Jong-un? These are questions, but he thinks it's totally fine. He thinks there's nothing wrong with Xi Jinping or probably even Kim Jong-un. Even though Kim Jong-un's left wing, even though that's a, supposedly like a socialist state, and they call themselves like the Democratic Republic of North Korea or something, but that's not even close to being true. They're not democratic or republic at all. Forcible suppression of opposition. What did we talk about?
We talked about flag burning. We talked about what else did we talk about? BLM.
He's
the police state
oppressing the protesters. Strong regimentation of society. It's definitely true in the economy. He's talked about how bad the economy is, but that's just truth. I mean, the economy is bad.
Mm-hmm.
But now the only thing that doesn't apply to him is which came into prominence in early 20th century
Well,
Europe.
we're not in early 20th century Europe.
But still,
but that is just the framework for which fascism gave rise.
Opposed to liberalism. Now, a conservative, a standard like, I'm a neocon Ben Shapiro guy. They're opposed to liberalism. That doesn't necessarily make them a fascist. Opposed to democracy, that is probably the key of what makes someone a fascist.
Mm-hmm.
Opposed to democracy. Believing that liberal democracy is obsolete.
Exactly.
And then again, opposed to Marxism. I'm not a Marxist, so I guess you could call me opposed to Marxism. But that does not make me a fascist, though.
He specifically calls everyone communist that he doesn't like.
Yeah. And by the way, the idea that Ocasio-Cortez or Ellen Omar or any of those people are communists is just completely false.
Well, it just shows you what people think communism is these days. They think it's giving people health care and, a place to sleep.
Well, that is a part of communism. That doesn't make you a communist. If I'm like, I think people should have a right to live in a house. I think people should have a right to health care.
You're communist.
Yeah, I'm totally a communist now. No, but and anarchism, again, anti-state.
Mm-hmm.
He's very pro-state. He pretends like he's in favor of freedom. Like, I don't want to make people wear masks. That's just a thing. I mean, like, that's one thing where he's like, I'm pro-freedom, but that's not even a good thing.
That's not a good example.
Yeah.
Because he wants to suppress the freedoms that matter, like free speech and flag burning.
Exactly. And I mean, so I think we've made the case abundantly clear. So what's the answer? Is Trump a fascist? Yes. Absolutely, he's a fascist. He's gone soon. Let's hope he's gone. Let's fight fascism in all forms.
Mm-hmm.
We don't think Joe Biden is perfect, do we?
No, not at all.
We were hoping for a Bernie in there or, a real left-wing trailblazer.
Yeah.
But this is why democracy is so important. Because if we can collectivize our voices, then we can fight for left-wing values and make real change.
Yeah.
So Nina Turner coming up for Ohio's 11th district. She's really good. She's a left-winger. She's, most importantly, she doesn't take any corporate money.
Good.
She stands up for justice, for economic justice, for racial justice, for, she's for higher taxation on wealthy, elites, and she's against those wealthy elites. So if you are in Ohio's 11th congressional district, vote for Nina Turner.
Mm-hmm.
Now, she still has to win the primary, but still, vote in the primary, make her win, because then we'll have real left-wing leadership in the Democratic Party, which is what we need. We got off topic here, but to close, what do you have to say?
I have to say thank you for joining us once again. And
sorry we didn't. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Merry Christmas. Happy Hanukkah, whatever you celebrate. We're sorry we missed it, but we are very glad to be back, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
All right.
Thank you very much. This has been The Pink Think. See you next time. Bye, everybody.